Hello, I'm Claire Smith and welcome to my channel. So today I'm going to be talking about buying fragrances pre-loved or secondhand. So I do this all the time. If you watch me regularly, you will know this. I don't like buying fragrances retail because it costs so much more money. It's worse for the environment. And also you can find vintage or discontinued rare fragrances secondhand that you cannot buy in a retail setting. So how do you ensure you're going to get a bargain? How do you ensure that you're going to get a genuine fragrance? And also, what other things are there to worry about with buying secondhand? So this video has been requested quite a few times. I'm hoping it's going to be of interest to some people. I know buying secondhand is not for everybody, and I completely understand that, but there are just those reasons that make me want to do it. And I would say on the whole, I've had a really positive experience with buying secondhand. I've probably bought over 100 fragrances secondhand now, maybe even 200 fragrances secondhand. And I would say out of those 200, I've maybe had one or possibly two that weren't exactly what I thought they were. So they were either fake fragrances or they were fragrances that weren't in the best condition and that I didn't want because they didn't smell great. But that's super, super rare. And if you follow these tips, you will probably be good to go. So in this video, I've got 10 tips to help you to find those bargains and those better deals secondhand with fragrances. I am going to base this video around eBay in the main because that's the secondhand platform that I tend to use when I'm buying fragrances. But this is going to have tips in it that are going to apply to buying fragrances secondhand elsewhere. So whether you're buying on Vinted, whether you're buying on Mercari or Depop, or even in a physical setting like a charity shop or a thrift shop. So if you haven't seen me before, I'm Claire Smith and I make videos all about perfume, perfume science, perfume psychology, perfume history, perfume consumerism, and I also just do some straight perfume reviews. So if that kind of content interests you, then please do consider subscribing if you haven't done already, and also please like this video. And also if you're a returning subscriber, then thank you so much for coming back. I really appreciate you. I don't say that enough, but yeah, I really do. And I love talking to you all every week in the comments. So let's get on with this. I've got 10 tips here to help you find those bargains secondhand. So tip number one is to know how much fragrances retail for, because if you don't know how much stuff retails for, then you don't know whether you're getting a bargain secondhand. And for some fragrances, it's unusual, but for some, it can be actually cheaper to buy fragrances retail than to buy them secondhand. A great example of this is Guerlain's Terracotta. That quite often goes for more money secondhand than it is retail. Also Lalique fragrances like Amethyst and Le Parfum have a very, very high resale price compared with their retail price. So it's really important to know the retail price of fragrances to know whether it's worth buying them secondhand or not. You can check the prices of secondhand fragrances by clicking the completed listings button. And in that way you can see what fragrances have sold for and compare it with the retail. And that's just going to help you to know whether it's worth your while searching secondhand or not. Please don't just trust that secondhand fragrances will be cheaper than retail, because that is not always the case counterintuitively. My second tip with buying fragrances secondhand is to have a wish list, but also to have an open mind. Obviously, we all know the pitfalls of blind buying and random buying of fragrances. You can end up with a collection of fragrances that is meh very, very, very quickly, and it's really not to be advised. But if there is something that is not immediately on your radar, but you see a really good price, then you should really consider whether you should be just snapping that fragrance up, because stuff doesn't stick around secondhand. It's now or never when you see a fragrance secondhand sometimes. A great example of this is a fragrance that I bought secondhand. So I bought this 250ml bottle of Jasmine des Anges by Christian Dior, and it's around, half full. This full retail would retail for over £300. I saw this on Buy It Now for about £42. And I tried this fragrance in store, I'd loved it. This wasn't immediately on my radar because I thought I'd never see it secondhand, I'd never see it at a reasonable price. But I saw it and snapped it up because it was just too good to leave. So this is a great example of just knowing when something is a bargain and going for it. My third tip is to be very wary if you see a fragrance that is full or brand new and sealed, especially if it's in the largest size. So how often have I seen fragrances for sale at 99p, still sealed? And, what does that make me think? It makes me think they're not genuine, because Why would someone with a genuine fragrance start out the bidding at 99 pence? Okay, you might encourage a few more watchers, but ultimately it's so much more likely that you will end up with a much lower price for your fragrance. If the bottles are 90ml 3 ounce or 100ml 3.3 ounce sizes, then that makes me even more suspicious that they might be counterfeit. It's not a hard and fast rule, but I would say in general, if people are going to bother to make a fake fragrance, they will make the larger sizes because that's more profitable for them. Overall, used bottles are so much less likely to be faked than brand new bottles. And so I feel safer buying used bottles secondhand than I do brand new fragrances. Of course, if you're going to buy any fragrance secondhand, you should always look for those details. So I think the best tip is to just know what real looks like. Go in store, look at tester bottles, look at the details that you will see on fragrance bottles. Look for things like how the atomizers look, what the batch codes look like, where the batch codes are, and just the overall look of the bottle, because you can always ask a seller for more pictures or for more details about a fragrance that they're selling. A genuine seller is never going to mind giving you further details if that's going to help them to make a sale, whereas somebody selling a fake fragrance will be far more wary. Of course, there are really great fakes out there, and it's still really hard to tell sometimes whether something is genuine or not genuine. Be especially aware with Chanel, Dior, YSL and Carolina Herrera fragrances. Those are really widely faked fragrances. I would also advise you to check a seller's feedback. So has this person got some feedback that would sort of suggest that these fragrances aren't genuine? Check even positive feedback, because often if somebody's received a refund and didn't think they were going to get a refund, they may even end up leaving that seller positive feedback if there was no argument when they tried to raise an issue. So it's really important to check all the feedback. Also check that seller's completed items and when they joined that platform. Because if that seller joined the platform last week, or if that seller has sold 5 items that were exactly the same fragrance when they claim that they've just made a mistake and they've bought the wrong one, then you kind of know that those fragrances are probably not the genuine article. My fourth tip is don't be greedy, and also consider how fragrances appear to others. So this is a very psychological tip really. If you've got a large collection, how much of that fragrance do you actually need? You can save so much money by buying less of something and by the format in which you buy the fragrance. So for example, if you want 30ml of a fragrance, you could buy it in a full 30ml bottle, or you could buy a slightly over half full 50ml bottle, or you could buy a 100ml bottle that's around 1/3 full. These bottles all have the same amount of fragrance in them, but psychologically, which one looks more full and which one looks nearly empty? It's the 100ml that looks nearly empty. And actually, people are put off buying 100ml bottles because they do look nearly empty, even when they've got 30ml left in them. And that's where you can find a bargain. Bidding on or offering on a 100ml bottle with only 30ml of fragrance remaining, as opposed to a full 30ml bottle, will often get you that fragrance at a much, much cheaper price. A great example of this for me are again these Dior Privé 250ml bottles. This may look like it's nearly empty, but still, even in this 250ml bottle, there is over 30ml of fragrance left here. And that is more than enough for me of Gris Dior. I do not need more than this in my life. And this psychological effect meant that I could buy 30ml of Gris Dior for around £35, when if I were to go into store, I would have to pay £125 for a full 40ml bottle. You can also save money if you are not fussed about the presentation of the fragrance. So you can save money by buying tester bottles or fragrance bottles that have lost their cap. So for example, I bought this bottle of Gucci Guilty Absolute Perfume and it didn't come with a cap. I'm not that fussed. It's fine. I can live with that. I got this fragrance at a much, much cheaper price. I think this was about £7.50 or something. And I don't know what a 90ml bottle of Gucci Guilty Absolute is retail, but I bet it's at least £80. I don't know. So, you can save a lot of money by not buying a fragrance with a cap. However, there are things to bear in mind with these kinds of things. Obviously, if a fragrance is less full, it has more air in the bottle, it has more oxygen in the bottle, which will contribute more to the degradation of the fragrance, will make it more susceptible to degradation. It doesn't necessarily mean that it is of an inferior quality. It doesn't mean that it smells any different at the moment, but it may smell different quicker than a fragrance that is fuller. Also, if a fragrance doesn't have a lid, that can also very slightly affect the rate at which a fragrance will degrade. But again, it's something that you just have to make a decision on as to how comfortable you feel about that. Obviously, for some people, a lot of the enjoyment of fragrance is to do with the presentation of the fragrance. And so if you are one of those people, it's probably not advisable to buy a fragrance without a lid because it will just annoy you. So tip 5 is if you're looking for something that's specific or rare, set up a price alert. Loads of different platforms allow you to do this. So it basically will tell you when a new item is listed that's within your budget. So you specify a budget, which means that you will not see items outside of that budget and be tempted. And this can be really useful if you're looking for loads of different fragrances and they just don't come up very often, because you will spend less time looking and you will always be notified when something is listed. So a good example of this for me is when I was trying to look for Tom Ford's Velvet Orchid, and I knew that I had a limit to how much money I wanted to spend on that fragrance, and I set the price alert at £40. This 100ml bottle of Tom Ford's Velvet Orchid came up at £40, and so it was on Buy It Now, and I just snapped it up because I'd been looking for a bottle of this for so long. And yeah, just having those price alerts just allows you to just be aware immediately when something new is listed and to snap it up, to get the bargains basically. Tip 6 is to learn how to search. So you think you know how to search for something, yeah? You just type it into a search box, hit go. No, that's not how you search for something. So on eBay especially, eBay does this thing where it sometimes limits your search to various different categories, which can mean that you can miss out on seeing particular listings. eBay can also screen out low value items from what it shows you in the search results. So you need to be aware of this and to press the button that says show all results. It's also important to have all categories selected when you're searching for something, because people list things in the wrong category, and in that way you can get a bargain. I would say as well, if you're looking for a very particular fragrance and you have plenty of time, then do a more general search for the brand of the fragrance and look at all of the results. People will so often list something as completely the wrong fragrance, and you can really pick up a bargain because anybody finding that fragrance under normal circumstances wouldn't be searching for that fragrance in the first place. People will also often mistake EDTs for EDPs, so checking the images very carefully can help you to find exactly what you want. A great example of all of this for me is when I was looking for a bottle of Mugler's Alien Essence Absolute. So I picked up this bottle for less than £12. Okay, there's not very much left in here, but this is a very rare fragrance now. There is at least 10, maybe even 15 mils of fragrance in this bottle. And the reason I found this at such a low price is because, one, they'd listed it as a perfume bottle, not as a perfume. They'd also listed it as Mugler's Alien. So anybody searching for Mugler's Alien Essence Absolute would not have found this fragrance. And that's why I could buy it at such a low cost. Another great tip to find a bargain on eBay or any other search-based platform is to use something called negative searching. So this can really help to narrow down your results. So for example, if you do select all categories on eBay, you will get loads of different things coming up that perhaps aren't relevant to what you're searching for, but you can screen out those results that you don't want by using something called negative searching. So this is where you will put a minus sign before something in a description to then remove those results. So a great example of this is when I was trying to find a bottle of Chloe Love, and I just kept getting results for Chloe Love Story as well as Chloe Love. I wasn't interested in the results that I was seeing for Chloe Love Story because I didn't want that fragrance. So I used negative searching to screen those out by searching for Chloe Love minus Story. Tip 7 is if you find something you really love and it's an auction, then set yourself an alarm. How many times have I thought, right, I really want that, but it ends in 5 days, and then I've just forgotten to bid? eBay is supposed to send you notifications to remind you that something's ending in 15 minutes, but you might not be staring at your phone 24/7. You might just not remember to be around at that particular time of day or notice that notification. So it's always a good idea to set yourself an alarm, because you can just very easily miss those auctions and miss out on a potentially very good deal. Especially if the auction ends at a weird time of day, that's when you're going to get a bargain, because there won't be so many people on eBay looking at that item, ready to bid, ready to pounce. Another tip is that you can actually find software. So you can find apps that integrate with eBay, and you can use something called automatic bidding in order to bid at the last moment to hopefully get a better price on the fragrance. I haven't used automatic bidders myself, but I know that they exist and I know that people do use them. So that might be something to look into. Tip 8, if a listing has a buy it now price and an auction price, consider putting in a low bid on the auction to knock out any buy it now prices. This has happened to me so many times that I've been interested in something, but I haven't wanted to pay the much higher buy it now price, and the item has been auction or buy it now, and somebody else has come along and they've just paid the buy it now price and the auction doesn't finish because it's already been bought. If you want to knock out that buy it now price, you can put a low bid on an auction to then hopefully secure that item and save it from being sold to someone at the much higher buy it now price. Also, I'd say if something is buy it now but you're not comfortable with the price that somebody's asking, or if it's on buy it now or best offer, you want to know how much that fragrance has sold for in the past, so check the completed listings. And you also want to know whether that person has listed that fragrance in the past and it's not sold. Because if that item has been repeatedly relisted, then somebody is going to be far more likely to accept an offer. I would also say here that the art of negotiation is very much all about making the other person feel like they've won a little bit. So always be polite and fair with your offers, because you are so much more likely to have that offer accepted if you make a polite offer than if you don't. Tip 9 is don't bid until the last moment in auction settings, and also have a limit of the amount you want to pay that's a little bit over a psychological threshold. So why would you not bid until the last moment? Well, because it simply drives the price up. It gets other people wrangled, it gets people knowing that you're interested in the item, and you will end up paying more for that item than if you leave it until the last moment. Okay, you can put people off from watching the item in the first place by driving the price up, but it just ultimately means that you will pay more for that fragrance. The exception to this rule is, of course, the one that I've outlined before, that if it's on buy it now or auction and you want to knock out the buy it now option. What do I mean by having a bid limit that's above a psychological threshold? Well, of course, when you are bidding, you will always have a limit, because it's not sensible to bid without having a limit, without knowing how much you can afford, without knowing how much you want to pay for that particular fragrance. But say you want to pay around £30 for a fragrance, do not set your limit at £30, because that is a threshold number. That is a psychological barrier kind of number. It's a round number. Have your limit at £30.63 or £31.19. That way you will not be spending that much more, but psychologically you're crossing a threshold number, and therefore you'll be far more likely to win that auction than somebody who bids a straight £30. Tip 10 is keep watching. Even if you lost that fragrance or it's sold to somebody else, just keep watching, because if you did lose out on an auction and the price went too high, then it probably was too high for the person buying it as well. And buyer's regret is a real thing with auction websites. So that fragrance may be relisted and you may get another opportunity to purchase it. And this time it may not go so high. So I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have enjoyed the video, then please press the like button, and please also consider subscribing if you haven't done already. I hope you found it useful. I hope you can take away at least one tip if you are considering buying fragrances secondhand. Also, please let me know, what are your experiences buying secondhand? Do you have any tips of your own? Have you used any of these tips already? I'd be really interested to know, what is your best bargain secondhand? Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.